as Ajuma cautiously tailed Omada down the path to her lonely hut, something shocking happened. Omada simply vanished into thin air before her eyes. Once upon a time, in the busy African village of Alaka, there lived a beautiful young woman named Omada. She was the most successful palmwine seller in the entire village. However, there was something odd and mysterious about Omada. No one in Alaka knew anything about Omada's parents or where she came from. She lived alone in an isolated hut on the outskirts of the village, away from the rest of the villagers. While the other women who sold palm wine in Alaka were wives of local palm wine tappers, Omada was an unmarried lady operating entirely on her own. This raised many questions in the minds of the villagers. How and where did Omada get the palm wine that she sold? No one dared to ask her directly, as her palm wine was ranked as the sweetest palm wine by all the men in the village who were her loyal customers. Every evening without fail, crowds of men would gather at Omada's palm wine joint, leaving the joints of other palm wine sellers empty and deserted. The men of Alaka absolutely loved the sweet, rich taste of Omada's unique palm wine. Those who could not afford it go to extreme lengths, like selling their properties and neglecting to feed their own families, just to have a chance to drink at Omada's place. The men became so obsessed that they would abandon their wives and children at home, preferring to spend endless hours drinking and chatting at Omada's joint. Feeling threatened, the other struggling palm wine sellers in Alaka began to take notice of Omada's extraordinary success. One frustrated woman named Ajuma decided to secretly follow Omada home one night to discover how she obtained her mysteriously irresistible palm wine. However, as Ajuma cautiously tailed Omada down the path to her lonely hut, something shocking happened. Omada simply vanished into thin air before her eyes. Terrified by this seemingly supernatural occurrence, Ajuma fled back to the village in panic. The next day, Ajuma recounted what she saw to the other women, claiming Omada could not possibly be an ordinary person. Unfortunately, the women dismissed Omada's alarming tale, accusing her of making up stories out of envy over losing all her customers to Omada. As the days went by, Omada's popularity and number of customers only continued to grow larger. The wives of Alaka became increasingly disturbed as their husbands now spent more time at Omada's joint than at their own homes and families. Scandalous rumors even began circulating that Omada was not just selling palm wine, but also providing her male customers with intimate favors. Feeling they could no longer idly accept the situation, the wives of Alaka had a meeting to discuss taking actions to lure their husbands back from Omada's group. They all suspected some sort of supernatural element or charm must be present in Omada's palm wine to make it so irresistibly addictive to their husbands. The women devised a plan to send 3 of their most cunning members to sneak around Omada's isolated hut and secretly observe her to uncover the source of her mysterious palm wine. The 3 spies crept up to Omada's dwelling and were shocked by what they witnessed. To their utter disbelief, Omada was not tapping the local palm wine trees like everyone else in the village. Instead, they saw an old wrinkled woman inside Omada's hut, drawing up palm wine from some kind of secret underground pit and filling it into Omada's supply calabashes. Who was the old woman and what was she doing in Omada's hut? The women questioned, fearing that they may be spotted. The 3 terrified women quickly fled back to the village to inform the others about this unnatural sight. However, Omada had noticed the smiling women and blew some kind of strange white powder in their direction as they ran away. When the women reconvened with the other wives ready to reveal Omada's secret, they were horrified to find the three women had become awestruck, completely mute, unable to speak a single word or narrate what they had seen. And so, Omada continued to sell her palm wine. Her business grew so prosperous that she had to expand her joint to accommodate more customers. One day, a young woman named Uwane discovered that her husband had been missing from their home for several days. Consumed with worry, Uwane decided to take matters into her own hands by paying a visit to Omada's joint herself to demand answers about her husband's whereabouts. However, when she arrived, Uwane's husband was nowhere to be found around the joint. Having harbored long-standing suspicions about Omada's unnatural successful business, Uwane seized this chance to investigate further. While Omada was busy attending to her customers, the determined Uwane slipped away and entered through the window of Omada's hut. Inside, she made a startling discovery: the same mysterious underground pit the spies had spotted. When Uwane looked down into the darkness of the pit, she was struck by the sound of faint, desperate cries echoing from within. The voices of men calling out for help. Uwane had a terrible feeling that her missing husband was among those being held captive down there. As Uwane looked around anything that could help her free the trapped men, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching. She quickly hid behind the door as Omada entered the room. To Uwane's disbelief, Omada transformed into a very old woman. The old woman began chanting some kind of strange incantations before reaching down and drawing up fresh palm wine from the same pit where the men's voices had emanated. Once her supply calabash were full, the old woman then shapeshifted back into the beautiful young Omada before going outside. Deeply shaken but realizing she was onto something, Uwane wasted no time in seeking out advice from the powerful spiritualist who lived in the next village. Uwane hastily narrated the whole story and the strange happenings in Omada's hut. After consulting his oracle, the old spiritualist revealed to Uwane that Omada was no ordinary woman, but rather a dangerous demonic woman preying on the souls of men. He explained that Omada used her beauty and charm to lure men to her irresistible palm wine, draining their life force through addictive obsession. Once their money and self-worth were totally depleted, Omada would then magically enslave the helpless victims, imprisoning their actual spirit in her accursed underground pit. He confirmed that the palm wine was really the waste product of the captured men being transformed through Omada's demonic powers. Uwane was utterly horrified by this grim revelation that her own husband had fallen victim to this. Uwane had warned her husband severally about Omada, but he always dismissed her as a nagging wife. However, the spiritualist informed Uwane that there was only one way to break Omada's curse and free the enslaved men, including her husband. To accomplish this daring rescue mission, Uwane first needed to covertly obtain one of Omada's palm wine calabashes. Next, she had to travel to Okokoro River, said to be blessed by the gods with powers of purity and sanctity. There, Uwane must fill the calabash with water from the sacred Okokoro River. Finally, Uwane needed to make her way back to Omada's hut and secretly pour the sacred Okokoro water directly into the secret pit, while taking care not to let Omada catch her in the act. The spiritualist promised that doing so will instantly break Omada's wicked spell, freeing the imprisoned souls and destroying the demon's power. Uwane immediately set off to carry out this risky journey to rescue her husband and the other Alaka men from their awful plight at the hands of the evil Omada. Timing was critical. Uwane calculated she would have her best chance at invading Omada's hut undisturbed when Omada was occupied attending to her customers at her palm wine joint during the busiest hours of the evening. After obtaining one of Omada's calabashes, Uwane hastened to the distant Okokoro river as instructed and filled it to the brim with the sacred purifying waters. Heart pounding, she carried the calabash and hurried back towards Omada's isolated hut at night. Began to fall. She removed the calabash filled with the sacred Okokoro water and without hesitation immediately poured its contents into the gaping pit's depths. In that very instant, Omada felt a strange disturbance in her spirit, as if a burning force had struck her evil powers head-on. Back in the crowded joint, one of Omada's customers suddenly called out in shock. The Palmwine he had been drinking from his cup had transformed into a putrid, dirty-smelling water before his very eyes. Chaos broke out as the same transformation overtook a weak cup and calabash of Omada's Palmwine. In which the intoxicated men turned on Omada, demanding an explanation. Sensing her powers had been weakened, was still burning with anger, Omada abandoned all pretense of her human guise. Shape-shifting into her true form as an old demonic woman, raised her arms and began casting malicious spells at the angry mob to subdue them. However, Omada was taken by surprise as her spells took no effect. The transformative waters of the sacred Okokoro river had succeeded in weakening her powers. After Uwane poured the Okokoro water into the pit, the cords binding the men in the well was also broken. With their freedom regained and mortal strength returning, the haggard-looking men who had been languished in captivity now began pulling up themselves out of the accursed pit one by one. At the same time, Omada felt her corrupted powers rapidly draining away. Among the ton of escaped captives was no other than Uwane's husband, who rushed over to tearfully embrace his wife, deeply apologizing for his obsessive negligence and thanking her for risking everything to save him from this fate. With Omada's malicious hold over Alaka thoroughly broken, the furious villagers surrounded the wicked old woman as she confessed her evil deeds. Having sustained her immortality by preying on souls and life essence of mortal men, it was one terrible secret that she laced an irresistible addictive spell into the Palmwine she sold in the village. Any man falling under its influence would become powerless to resist, emptying his pocket, sacrificing his values, neglecting his families and responsibilities to satisfy his self-destructive taste for more of Omada's Palmwine. Once her victims were financially and spiritually depleted, Omada revealed she would then employ her powers to magically entrap their very souls in the underground pit in her way. There, their life forces will be trained to produce the actual substance she had been passing off as Palmwine to the unfortunate people of Alaka. Having openly confessed everything she did, the villagers wasted no time in carrying out justice. Omada was captured and casted into her evil well, and her hut was burnt down to ashes. She was never heard of again. With the demonic Palmwine seller Omada completely vanquished, the village of Alaka could at last return to the peaceful, tight-knit community they had once known before Omada's arrival. The husbands and father who had been so tragically separated from their families were free to rejoin their loved ones in gratitude. Over time, the wealth, resources and manpower that had once been squandered on Omada's insatiable demands was reinvested into civic improvements to strengthen the bonds and prosperity of Alaka. The villagers enjoyed their rediscovered family lives by sharing stories, songs, and quality time together. This powerful tale serves as a cautionary reminder for all that wicked and evil forces lurk through the world in many guises. We should be prayerful and mindful of what we consume and who we patronize, as most people are not who we think they are. Thanks for watching, guys.